Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. Also, apologies that the camera was that screwed up. I had the tripod upstairs to start on Mystical Munchies earlier this morning. So yes, while the prime rib is getting ready for that, we're going to step into another playthrough here as we play some Call of Cthulhu from Chaosium. This is, of course, a role-playing game set in the Cthulhu mythos. And we have a character that we're going to resurrect. We're going to resurrect Nicholas Larson, our lawyer, who was born in Arkham and lives in Providence, Rhode Island. Actually, lives in Arkham, born in Providence. Now, what we're going to do to generate an adventure with him is we've got the Solo Investigator's Handbook. I've got that off shot that we'll use to generate an adventure completely from scratch. Unlike when we come back to play this on Christmas, where I've already got something of a one-shot lined up for that, we're probably still going to interact with that using the Solo Investigator's Handbook, but we're going to do this one completely from scratch. I've got my pen right here. I've got my notebook ready to go. So I think the first thing we need to do is go ahead and generate our scenario. And my phone is upstairs, but that's probably fine. So in the Solo Investigator's Handbook, we've got a D100 roll. Last time he got roped into delivering a package. This time, let's see what Nick gets roped into here. Let's see, that's a 35. So a 35 in the Solo Investigator's Handbook. Keep having the same recurring disturbing dream. Okay, same recurring disturbing dream. Along with very specific information about a particular location and time. And we're not sure how it got there. So we have a dream that's coming in, but we don't know anything about it yet. Let's see, next thing we could roll for is where we receive the quest, which I don't think we need to worry about that because we're having the dream ourselves. So I don't think we're too worried about where this quest is coming from. Let's see, what's our next note for generating this? So where are we currently set? Let's see where we're currently, well, this is where we're starting at. So all right. Let's see, that's a 6, which means we're in the city somewhere. A 61 for a city location because there's a further table, so he's in a shop. Is there anything else? Characters involved. All right, and then we'll roll up some verbs to get the action going. We're going to go over to the verbs table, and I'm going to keep all of this off shot. So the way they suggest to do it is using 3d10s, but the way I'm going to do it, if you're familiar with me playing season ticket baseball on the channel, and as a shameless plug, the day after Christmas, once I get back home, I will be having my 1985 demo game as I get ready for my 1985 playthrough and replay of season ticket baseball. So the way we're going to generate our verbs is we're going to use a d6 as our hundreds die. I'm going to take this -1. So a 6 will be a reroll, then 10s and 1s. So verbs. We'll do 3 rolls on the verbs table, so 352. And anybody who stops by in chat, Feel free to contribute if you have anything you can think of that might help move the story along. So order. $191. Eat. And 86 is capture. Order, eat, capture. Okay. I think we can probably work with that. So it doesn't specify, I don't think does it separate a restaurant out? Surprisingly, no, it doesn't. But I think I can still work with that. So I think that's our... Okay, so what's currently going on? All right. Generate a scenario. Journaling. Okay, so that's where we want to be. So I'm going to put the stream into be right back while I come up with how we're going to start this scenario off. As usual, I'll put the stream into be right back, but I will be around to interact with chat. Oop, yep, back soon. Okay. Let's see. So hey, Jester, everything's well so far. I'm just working on putting together the intro for today's Call of Cthulhu scenario. I just finished up the last of my roles in the Solo Investigator's Handbook, so now I'm piecing together the intro for today. Okay, so here's our small intro. I just came up with something very quick. So this is entry 1 on our adventure. We're going to set this, let's say September 12th, 1926. We'll say 11:30 a.m. this is starting. I was having a long day of getting ready for my trial today. I sat down at my favorite diner to have lunch before court, as I had some time before I needed to be in court for opening arguments. While I was there, though, I started having some weird visions. This was a very short vision, but it had a lot of specific details, including a place and time. Maybe I need to see a hypnotist to draw more of this out, but would they believe me? In any case, I don't have time to chase this down, as the trial is starting soon. So it looks like we're having a trial of some kind, but we're getting these visions that are assaulting us. So we need to figure out about that. I need a 5th dial. I've actually got I don't know if you guys can see the dials down here. They're just off shot, but I've got 4 dials here. I've got one representing his luck, which I can use to actually, this one's luck that I can use to manipulate his dice rolls. This one is his magic. I've got one for magic points, one for his hit points, one for his sanity, and I'm going to grab another one that I'm going to use to track the current mythos, which I'm going to call that vision. We're going to call that unsettling, I think, which will bump the mythos by 1 and take a sanity roll. Yes, so we'll bump the mythos up to 1. And Jester, as the story unfolds, you can feel free to chip in with stuff here as well. So we are going to make a sanity roll at a 35. He's already pretty unsettled by the visions. He will fail that miserably, and he'll lose D4 sanity. He'll lose 1 sanity, so going down to 34 sanity. Okay, so now we're going to roll for our first story direction, which I've got my notes over here. So this is going to be entry 2. Story direction. We'll roll a D100 for story direction, and we're going to add the current mythos value to this, which is 1. That's a 36, which goes up to a 37, since we're adding... we have development, so we've got something happening here. Let's see what happens here. You don't know that much about this game to give decent input. Well, a lot of this is just about telling the story, is just kind of building a story. I usually piece it together where things are going, but occasionally, if I get stuck, it might be nice to have another set of eyes and or typing to kind of figure out, okay, we get this verb, I'm sitting there like, okay, what the hell do I want to do with this? So it can be nice to have somebody else to bounce ideas off of. But we're going for a development table, so something is going to happen with the story. That will be a 53, which is a neutral event. So a neutral event. Actually, that's, what was that? A 53, which is a 54. Still going to be a mundane event. So maybe we're going through... So I think with a mundane event, that probably makes the most sense to be, we just go through the trial. Maybe we get assaulted by visions or something. I don't know if it's going to be in court or what's going to happen there, but I think that probably makes the most sense. So we probably need an event of some kind here. Mundane life. Is there an events table that we can roll on for like a mundane event? Random and mysterious events. Now we might be able to make a roll there. But I think for now, we're probably just going through with the... I think for now, it's probably just proceeding with heading to court for opening arguments on that trial, wherever we're going. So let's actually put a question to the Oracle here, because there is a question answer mechanic in here similar to what's used in the Solo Adventurers toolkit. So we're proceeding to trial. So I want to ask 2 questions. First question I want to ask is, does anything happen on our way to trial? We've got a D percentile roll. On a 1 to 34, and I don't really like having a maybe answer coming off of this table to determine if something is going to happen. So we're going to modify this to say 1 to... We're going to say 00 to 49, no, nothing happens. 50 and up, something does happen. That's a 75. Okay, so yes, something will happen on the way. Are we going to get assaulted by another vision? Same roll there. That's a 90, so yes, we are going to get assaulted by another vision. And I don't think I brought the keywords out with me, the keywords from the Solo Investigators, or the Solo Adventurers toolbox. So I think this is going to be a verbs roll. I think we're going to make a couple rolls on the verbs table to see if we can get more information about what this vision is. Because I think that's our first order of business here, is we want to figure out what in the world this vision is about. So we're going to make let's make another 2 to 4 rolls, enough to maybe spark an idea on what's going on in this vision. Let's see, that's going to be a 124. 124 corner. So maybe the corner of something potentially, or we're getting cornered. 380. 380 protest. And so corner protest 143. Dedicate. Is there any kind of protest? Let's put another question to the yes/no mechanic. Is there a protest of some kind happening here? And it's not necessarily going to be like a federal protest or anything like that. I've got an idea on what I could do with corner protest and dedicate, but I want to know if there's any kind of protest happening first. And given that this is the Roaring 20s, I'm going to call it, this is very much before the Depression, so I'm going to call it, let's call it unlikely that there's a protest of any kind happening. $38 minus 20 is 18, so no. There's no like civil protest or anything like that happening. So the verbs we got were corner, protest, and dedicate. So maybe potentially it could be like a street corner or something being dedicated, but maybe the person who is protesting that they're not worthy of the dedication. So I think that's what we'll go with. And I think the vision will be happening. Actually, does the vision happen during the trial? That's a 67. So yes, the vision will happen. So it'll come up during the trial, which means he's going to be distracted somehow. Maybe distracted during the defense opening argument. Well, actually, that's probably a relevant question. Is he's a lawyer of some kind? Is he I've been assuming he's a trial lawyer. Let's say he's a prosecuting attorney. He might be a fairly so maybe they're starting opening arguments or something, and maybe they're starting opening arguments on a trial, and he gets distracted by a vision. So I think the next thing we need to figure out here, what else could we interact with during this trial scene? We've got a mundane event. We've got proceeding through the trial. So I guess the next question is, does anything happen during the trial? Well, we know the vision's happening during the trial. Is anything else going to happen during the trial, or is life just pretty much going to be mundane? So let's put that to the yes/no mechanic once again. Does anything else other than a vision happen during the trial? We'll call that a 50-50, 90. So yes, something else is going to happen during the trial. Let's see. So now what do we want to do with that? I think we're going to go to a D6 roll. Evens, we're going to make another verbs roll. Odds, we're going to the random event table. Odds, we're going to the random event table. Let's see. So we need random events, and that will be a D100 roll plus Mythos. Which right now our Mythos currently is a 1. That's an 89 plus 1 is 90. That's probably going to be a very dangerous event. So a 90. Actually, overcome by terrifying thoughts. That'll fit in very nicely with our story. So we're overcome by terrifying thoughts, awful visions of eldritch creatures that we can barely stand to imagine. So I'm going to call that. As we're getting assaulted by this vision during the trial, that seems like it's going to be a pretty terrifying thing to have happen because we're getting something very dangerous coming at. So terrifying, that'll be a +5, which is going to require another sanity roll. Our sanity right now is a 34. That's a 79, so we very much fail that. That'll be a 1d4 plus 1 sanity roll. Losing another 2 sanity. Which I will adjust that in a second here. All right, so once I adjust the sanity, now what we need to know is I want to see if we can learn more about this creature in the vision. So that's where I think that's where we're going to go to, see if we can learn what this creature is. So we'll start off with build details on that. That's a 28, so that'll be a normal sized creature. Next up, we need to check on the form it's going to take. Let's see, 66 is going to be solid. How many limbs does it have? 83. Tentacles, possibly limbs. And is that the last thing? Yes, it is. So normal size, solid, and it's got tentacles. Let's see, normal, so solid. Ooh, that would be a pretty terrifying thing to have. Maybe a little bit on the big side. So I will take some liberties. And I think he's terrified of what he's seeing, but we know he's seeing a dark young. And those things are nasty. I should have a reference for them in the Malleus Monstrorum, which I had the foresight to bring out with me. Let's see, Volume 2 Deities, so I'm hoping that there's something for just creatures in here. Let's see if there's a reference for Dark Young in here. Dark Crawler, Deep One Hybrid, Dash. I'm very surprised there's no, maybe under, it wouldn't be under Young, I would think, but it might be like Young Dark, Children of Yog-Sothoth. Yug, no. Monsters from Folklore. Probably not going to be anything like that. Actually, let me try in the second volume of the Malleus Monstrorum. That's got deities. Theoretically, if Shub-Niggurath is in here, the Dark Young might be in here as well. Being a minion of Shub-Niggurath. The Black Goat of the Woods. Lady of the Woods. Great God Pan, of course not. Because that clearly would make way more than a little too much sense. I'm very surprised and also moderately annoyed that they don't have Dark Young in here. I want to get some stats just in case we're going to need to fight this thing at some point. Monsters, Beasts, and Alien Gods. Ah, here we go. They are available. I just had to go into the Keeper's rulebook for them. So we know we're being confronted by visions of a Dark Young. Now we've got to fit the pieces together, but that might be in our next scene. So I'm going to put this down as usual. Then we'll go into Be Right Back, and I'll make another journal entry. So let's say this is 9/12/26 at, let's say, 1:30 p.m. Hmm. All right, let's say this is later in the evening for our next entry. All right, tabbing back in as we've got another journal entry to go through here. So our second journal entry takes us to 1:30 p.m. the same day. I managed to get to court in plenty of time for opening arguments for my trial. I got assaulted by another vision, and this one showed me a street corner being dedicated to someone who didn't think they deserved it. Unfortunately, it happened during the defense opening arguments, but I managed to get through my opening arguments. After my opening arguments were over and court was dismissed for the day, I was overcome by another vision. This one was of a terrible creature that terrified me. I could hardly comprehend the creature that was assaulting my vision. It had tentacles, but seems to be walking upright. What is this thing, and what does it want with me? I can't get these visions out of my head. So now we're moving to later in the evening. So this is at 4:00 on that same day. He might be trying to go look for a hypnotist at this point or something to draw more information out about these visions. But we're going to roll for another round of story direction here. I'm also hoping that to go about an hour with this stream, because I've got the prime rib coming up to room temperature for Mystical Munchies. So ideally, I want to go for about an hour to let that come up, to let that start coming up to temperature a little bit. So we'll probably have, I would say, 1 or 2 more entries for this adventure. We'll table this one though as Christmas. I've got a special adventure lined up for Christmas. But let's roll for story direction, and we're adding. What are we adding? I think we're adding 5. Yeah, we're adding 5 to the mythos. So we're at a mythos value of 6. Let's see what we get for story direction this time. 13 plus 6 is 19, so we're getting downtime. We'll see if we're disturbed here. And we add current mythos points to the roll, which right now is 6. That's at 15 plus 6 is 21, so we're left undisturbed. All right, so it's kind of a little bit, so I guess this is going to be, you have to run doing a Jester's Judgment on Stone Cold Hockey. Well, hopefully that goes well for you, Jester. And I know I've been checking out other hockey games. I haven't come back to Stone Cold yet, though. So hopefully everything goes well on that. I'll probably stop by and check that out a little bit later. But catch you later. All right, so we're coming back to downtime on our current entry. So really not much here. Probably just another mundane day. Probably just a mundane entry here, where he's going to go through. Is he going to go seek out the hypnotist? Maybe that might be a first thing tomorrow morning to do. So I think we're going to have a very short entry there. We're not going to really have much in terms of development here. So we will reduce the mythos by 2. So yeah, really not much going on. He probably is just going to go have dinner, go through his evening, and his other scheduled stuff. So we'll drop the mythos by 2, which means we'll go to entry 4. And then once I make notes in my journal, we'll have another story direction roll. So entry 4, let's say this is September 13th, 1926. And we'll say this is I don't really know what day 1926 actually is, but let's pretend this is a Saturday and court's been adjourned until Monday. So Saturday at, let's say, 9 a.m. His plan today is going to be to go see the hypnotist and figure out more about these visions. But let's see what story direction we get. We're adding 4 to our story direction roll. Okay, that's going to end up being a 59 plus 4 is 63. I don't think that's exactly going to be suited. That's a discovery roll, actually. So we do have an insight of 1. Right, so we've got discovery of some kind. Let's see what kind of discovery we've got coming up here. Let's see, a 58. Over here, someone discussing the thing we're researching. Okay. All right, so, and the discovery roll was a, what did we say, 58. So we're overhearing something or maybe hearing things. Over here, someone discussing what we're researching. Maybe indirectly related, but it's definitely of interest, or we could just be hearing things. So let's actually figure that out first. Well, where would he overhear? Maybe we're out and about, trying to go to the hypnotist, but So we're out and about looking for a hypnotist. Do we overhear anything? Let's put that to the oracle and see if we hear anything. Throw a bookmark in here. That's a 13, so no, we don't hear anything, which is going to send us over. So maybe we overhear something on the rumors table. Let's make a roll on the rumors table and see what we could end up with there. Rumors, here we are. And this doesn't require... Okay. So let's make a rumor roll. That's an 83, so what do we overhear? 83, screams can be heard from the abandoned house on Whitaker Avenue. Okay, so that's the rumor we're overhearing. The question is, do we hear any kind of screaming coming? Since we've been overhearing somebody talking about these screams that they've been hearing, maybe late at night. But let's see if we hear anything now. It's fairly early in the morning, though. So let's see if we do hear anything now. So back over to the oracle once again. So do we overhear anything now? That's an 81. So it sounds like there are screams coming from... Screams coming now. So I think we probably do want to head over to the... So I think we probably do want to head over to that house. Let's make a listen roll to see if we can hear where those screams are coming from. See if we can hear the direction they're coming from, or if they're just kind of floating, or if they're... So his listen is a 20. So we're going to stop and listen. 64. No, we can't really hear where they're coming from. We hear them, but there's too much background noise to realize that that's where they're coming from. To realize exactly where they're coming from. So are these screams related to what we're looking into? Actually, the better question is, do they pop up in the vision? That's a 65, so I think that's a maybe roll. No, actually, that's a yes. So there are screams in... So we do remember that there are screams in the vision. Screams are in visions. So these screams that we can hear, but we don't know exactly where they're coming from, might be connected to what our vision is, because we do hear screams we do remember hearing screams from the vision as well. So now that we've kind of got that, we're going to roll some verbs to get things moving a little bit here. Let's see what we can come up with for a couple of verbs rolls. Since things have kind of stalled out a little bit. Now that we're realizing we've got these screams. Yeah, we can't really find where they're coming from, so let's roll up some verbs just to move the action along. 289. Implore. So we're probably going to be getting implored to do something with this. Let's see, that's a 5. That would be a 505, but the d6 is going to be a reroll. 205. 205 enlist. And 411. 411 reward. Implore, enlist, reward. So maybe the visions are starting to get a little bit. Maybe the visions are getting more frequent. So actually, how did he sleep? So did he sleep well last night, or was he maybe plagued by visions overnight? He did not sleep well, so presumably plagued by visions. So didn't sleep well, maybe was plagued by visions. And definitely heard more screaming. So he's looking a little bit haggard as he's walking around during the day today. So probably being plagued by his visions a little bit more overnight. And definitely not himself. He's probably running into other people, fairly tired and just again, not generally generally not his best self today. So the question is, does he try to track this house down does he try to track this house down or wherever these screams are coming from? If he thinks they're related, he probably should. So I'm going to call this a. So we know this. So we know the screams are related. We know the screams are related. So I think realizing that, we're going to bump the mythos by. I think we're going to call that a. That sounds like an unsettling development. So I think that's what we're going to do with that. So we'll call that scary. That he realizes that they're in his vision. So we're going to bump the mythos by the 2 that we just dropped it by for our last round of downtime, which will require another sanity roll at 32, which he'll fail that, and on a scary he'll lose a d4 sanity, which will be another 4 sanity. Yowza. Okay, so he's down to 28 sanity. Okay, so now that we realize the screams are related and we've got a house to check out, might be a good time to have that come through might be a good time to wait for the evening. So we'll go ahead and make another journal entry here. And then this might be a good time to call it a stream in all honesty, because I'm getting near that 45-minute mark where I wanted to make sure the prime rib was moving. So like I said, I think we'll make this journal entry, then we'll call that a stream. So as usual, we'll put the stream into be right back, but I will be around to interact with chat. Hmm. Hmm. Let's jump to that. Actually, better idea. I think our next entry, which will be later, we'll say about 1 p.m. Okay, so coming back into game, we will go ahead and have our next journal entry. It was a quiet Saturday. I wasn't due back in court until Monday. And as I walked over to the local hypnotist to try to learn more about these visions, I overheard someone talking about screaming coming from a house not far from me. I thought I could hear some of that screaming, but there was a lot of background noise around me, so I couldn't pick anything out. I did remember screams coming from my vision, which was a bit scary and potentially related. I need to learn more about these visions. They're messing with my sleep. I think that is unfortunately where we're going to call this. I think that is where we're going to call this a stream, so I can keep moving on Mystical Munchies. We'll put the new story of Nick Larson over to the side now that we know more about the vision that's currently plaguing his sleep. But as is okay, so let me finish making notes here. So the only things that have changed right now are Mythos is up to 6. Sanity is at 28. Otherwise, everything else has been untouched. We'll probably see these dials again later this week. But what we need in shot now, once I finish getting this cleaned up, we need the advent calendar, and we are down to 2 entries left in the advent calendar. Today is the 23rd, so let's say we crack open the entry in the advent calendar for the 23rd, and let's see what we've got in here. I think I'm going to have an easier time doing it this way. Oop, that didn't tear well. There we go. And in here, we've got dice from the green and purple set I really don't like, and this die is not wanting to come out for me. There we go. So we've got let me just minimize that. We've got the D20 from the purple and green set that I really do not like at all. Push that through. I'd be stunned if this goes through the dice tower. And no, I'll have to lift that back out. This D4 tablet thing, however, should go through the dice tower. It does. Does it roll anything other than a 1, though? Yes, it does. Okay. So that's actually a somewhat cool-looking rune dice, even if I don't like the color scheme of it in the slightest. But that will do it for this playthrough of Call of Cthulhu. I can throw those... I'll throw the special rune stuff all in here. Let's see, is that a full... So it looks like I've got all 3 full dice sets. So I'm just getting the special stuff out of the way it looks like. And then there was one. There's 1 entry left in this year's advent calendar, which this has been really cool to crack an advent calendar on the channel, I will say that. And I do, as always, enjoy Call of Cthulhu. I was just wanting to make sure the time was very specific here because, again, I'm going through Mystical Munchies, which has got a lot of time sensitivity to it. But I'm rambling a bit. That'll wrap this stream of Call of Cthulhu. Later this evening, we're going to have another RPG stream as we play Star Wars Force and Destiny. Also, later this evening, we're going to have the special Christmas episode of Mystical Munchies, as we have the entree out of the Fallout Official Vault Dwellers cookbook, Captain's Feast, aka Roast Prime Rib. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care, everyone.